I noted with interest a report released in Tennessee by the Tennessee District Attorneys General's Conference on crimes committed by illegal immigrants in Tennessee. Crimes committed by illegal immigrants in Tennessee, released by the, basically like the District Attorneys Association in Tennessee. Interesting report. 21,648 total criminal charges in 2025. 2,183 violent offenses, 41 homicides, nearly 1,600 assaults, 145 sexual offenses, 11 child rapes, 40 aggravated kidnappings, nearly 3,000 DUIs, and more than 5,300 cases of driving without a license or on a suspended or revoked license. That's not inconsequential, certainly to the victims and their families, right? Preventable crimes. Tennessee has half the population of Illinois, a little bit more than half. And I'm sure, since it is not a sanctuary state, probably less than half of the illegal immigrant population. Pew Research puts the illegal immigrant population in Illinois at north of 500,000. 41 homicides, 1,600 assaults, 145 sexual offenses, 11 child rapes, 40 aggravated kidnappings. It's a lot of a lot of victims of criminality that could have been prevented. And that's the first job of government, as I understand it. So I went, gosh, well, I wonder what the Illinois report says. Silly me. Under the sanctuary state law in Illinois, law enforcement is prohibited from inquiring about or investigating the citizenship or immigration status of anyone they arrest, you see. We don't have that data. Gee, I wonder why. Why would they want law enforcement? Well, the lawmakers in Springfield and the governor and mayors like Brandon Johnson. Golly, why would they not want that data kept and recorded and reported? Gee, I wonder. Can you imagine? I just wish more victims of people in this country illegally, in Illinois, more victims and their families would come forward the way that Joe Abraham and Brian McCann and others have come forward to put a fine point on it, to put a human face on it. It's what we need. It's the only thing that really penetrates as far as I'm concerned. Otherwise, it's just data points, and it gets lost in the shuffle of the propagandizing by politicians and the professional agitators they finance, as we have seen. Turning all the focus on, demonization of ICE full time. One ineffectual executive order after the other, one Nazi comparison after the other. Erick Chomskis is a civilian employee at the Department of War. He has written on the topic. He joins us now. Erick, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
One of those below the fold differences between a sanctuary state and a non-sanctuary state, maybe a sanctuary state versus rule of law state. Maybe that's the way we should present them. Just in terms of, you have no idea because you're not allowed to report reality to your constituents. That's what the political leadership in a state like Illinois has affected.
I found it interesting. You were just bringing up that report, and it just brought to mind as I was writing this article for The Hill, this op-ed, and trying to do more research and everything else. Exactly what you said. It's amazing how hard it is to find true hard data to back up either side, right? But definitely can't find out anything on, what are the numbers looking like as far as the types of crime, how much crime, almost like a coordinated effort to keep it hidden. And that says a lot.
The president posted on Truth Social over the weekend, I've instructed Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, under no circumstances are we going to participate in various poorly run Democrat cities with regard to their protests and or riots unless they ask us for help. We will, however, guard, very powerfully so, any and all federal buildings that are being attacked by these highly paid lunatics, agitators, and insurrectionists, so forth. The president's posture on that, we're going to leave cities that allow their cities or parts of their cities to be overrun by the professional agitators. We're going to leave them to their own devices unless they ask us for help. We'll guard our property, and that's it. What do you say to that?
I honestly disagree with that approach, but I think he knows probably more than most that when images move polls, and you kind of brought that up in your first talking point as far as putting a human face, and I think that's what we're missing. I think the Lake and Rileys and all the countless names we don't know who've been affected. I know in my local area, you were bringing up Tennessee stats, and I'm an hour and a half south of Nashville in Huntsville, Alabama, and I've had a friend lose her son through drunk driving, illegal immigrant, and died. So there definitely needs to be more of a face. I think we have a problem with these sanctuary cities with local governments, and especially like in Minnesota, these moral contradictions. They want to condemn aggressive enforcement, then they force the enforcement into the disruptive environments. Then they try to blame the federal agents for the outcomes that they structurally cause. And as I stated, the Democrats and the media know that these images are going to move polls. And it's all been just about power. It has nothing to do about we the people.
The other thing that's happening, too, that maybe some nervous Republicans should take notice of is, there's some dissension in the ranks on the other side, too. Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, was on with Bret Baier over the weekend and said this.
Taking criminal illegal immigrants off the street, would you honor ICE detainers? If you're not willing to hold someone longer than in a jail for ICE, what about a phone call that gives ICE the heads up that you're releasing that person? That's where a lot of the pushback is coming.
We want our communities to be safe, and we work with our federal partners where appropriate. As an example, if we have a violent criminal who's about to leave one of our jails, we do collaborate and communicate with our federal partners. We want our communities to be safe.
But so that's the problem with sanctuary cities and sanctuary
We're not
states.
a sanctuary state.
I know you're not. But do you think that Governor Walz and Mayor Fry are doing the right thing?
I'm not going to pine on other governors. I can tell you what I do in Pennsylvania. We work together to reduce crime. That is what we've accomplished.
Yeah, so he's not going to opine on Walz and Fry, but there is clearly daylight between a Shapiro and a Walz or a Pritzker or a Newsom, and that could and should be exploited.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just common sense. So, the arrests that move out of the jails behind closed doors are going to then go into the neighborhoods, and that's going to create more public encounters, which means more bystanders and risk for everyone. And again, it's done on purpose. And now stars get to wear lapel pins and the new fashion statement and everything else. But again, it's their own that sanctuary policy that's pushing it out into the street, because I think we know what the real debate is. It's there's this real belief. And you heard it from the stars last night and everything else, thinking that we really shouldn't have borders. And it's just lunacy. I don't know where they think, the money growing on trees and where federal government actually gets their money. It's either printed, causing inflation, or it's higher taxes. And it's just squeezing this middle class. It's just not sustainable.
The other thing, too, is you have prosecutors like in Philadelphia, Larry Krasner, who Josh Shapiro repudiated Krasner's comparison of ICE to Nazis, and Krasner donning himself like a 21st century Nazi hunter. He totally rejected that. So there's more dissension in the ranks because Shapiro doesn't want to be associated with that, which is an intelligent play by Shapiro. But there's other things with respect to some of these prosecutors, too. Jason Johnson from the Law Enforcement Defenseman Fund had an interesting piece in the New York Post talking about this, the disparate treatment. And basically, with prosecutors like Krasner and Alvin Bragg in Manhattan dropping or reducing charges, and helping keep criminals who are in this country legally off ICE's radar, they are giving criminal aliens preferential treatment at the expense of American citizens. This is not an inconsequential thing because you're not allowed to discriminate against or for someone based on their national origin. And what Jason Johnson, I think, cleverly argues is that this is discrimination for someone based on their national origin, their status here illegally. You have prosecutors discriminating on their behalf and giving them beneficial treatment under the law that American citizens don't get, and that should rise to the level of federal attention.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what's the end game? I mean, I think everybody that's kind of following this, understands where this is headed. I mean, why, Biden had such an open flood of illegal immigration coming over the border. And isn't it funny how a lot of them are getting sent, to these red cities, red states? I think they know the American people by seeing these images. And, what do we have? 6 corporations controlling the news. Not very hard to have a succinct message out there, but they flood it. They know people, just Americans in general. We don't want to see kids. We don't want to see this displacement, as they like to be put on there. Oh, these people have done nothing else. They're just good citizens paying their local taxes with what they buy. They're helping the economy in the long run, and they flooded and flooded and flooded because they know amnesty eventually is going to be on the table. Once they get this supposed, I mean, I don't think there's really much appetite on the Republican side to get rid of all illegal immigrations and make them stand at the back of the line and come back. And I think with that amnesty is going to come power of votes. And if you're one of those people and you think only one party is going to actually protect you, who do you think they're going to vote for?
Speaking of, pulling up short, I'm talking about on the Republican side, like you're sort of intimating, they go along to a certain extent and then they quietly, sneak away. What about as it pertains to investigating the financing of these professional agitators, these organizations that are crossing the line and committing criminal acts in major cities? There's been a lot of talk from Cash. There was Caroline Leavitt reiterated over the weekend on Bartiromo's show that the FBI is closing in on these individuals. Are you satisfied with the level of investigation into the financing of these anarchist organizations that are connected to criminal activity?
I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think when you look at, throughout history in some of these larger cases that get blown open, a lot of the times it's kind of like out of nowhere, all of a sudden the evidence gets dropped. I'm really hoping that for some reason we can track down funding that goes into Minnesota, goes all the way to Somalia, but we can't figure out who's paying professional protesters and agitators within our own country. It doesn't make sense to me. I think we've got too many smart people within the government, within the FBI that could track the money flow down. And so, at this time, obviously not satisfied, but I have a little hope that maybe something behind the scenes is going to be happening, but who knows? I honestly, my personal opinion, I think both parties have sold the American people down the river for power and for money, and I think and it's kind of funny. I didn't even vote for president the first time in the primaries when he ran, and then I found myself ever since he became president defending most of his policies that he's put in place. So. Fingers are crossed. I hope it happens, but I'm kind of in that let's wait and see.
Erick Chomskis is a civilian employee at the Department of War. His piece, Local Sanctuary Policies Are Creating Chaos for Communities. We know that all too well in Chicago, in Illinois generally. That's you can find over at The Hill, thehill.com. Erick, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan, thank you.
And Erick joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Well, that was a surprise. The HVAC tech just said our furnace apparently